That's right. You're listening to and watching the Arsenal Review USA podcast. It's the podcast for the American Gooner in association with Arsenal America. You can find out more about us at arsenalreviewusa.com. I'm not going to say all the other social media things because you're already on the internet. You're literally probably doing 20 other things on the internet while you're watching this. So I'm sure you can figure it out how to find us in other ways. What we really want to talk about is how amusing it is when bottom-feeding clubs boo your team, especially bottom-feeding clubs that are known for usually applauding rough play, and then when that goes against them, such as the case with I guess this is what now the sixth. There's more than that. Come from behind or last-minute win against Burnley that Arsenal have had in the last several years, really. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk a little bit about the Cologne game. We'll talk about Kolasinac. The resourcefulness of Kolasinac, how good Aaron Ramsey is at diving and how good he could be in the future, I think, is a useful topic. And a lot of other things here on the Arsenal Review podcast. So first of all, Kyle, I think you had some talking points from the – no, you didn't have talking points from the Cologne game? I want to know who has any talking points from the Cologne game. It was a game that – it's the fixture or it's the competition that everybody turns off now, Europa League. So it was one that we watched – and we wanted to find a reason, especially with the starting lineup, to get interested in. The result wasn't one to really, prompt interest in the future, I don't think. Although Arsenal did top the group. They didn't top the group the way Arsene Wenger wanted them to, I think. And that was by winning. They obviously topped the group because other results went in their – or other result went in their favor. But it looked from the lineup that Arsene Wenger wanted them to top the group from just outright winning and proving their dominance. And that starting lineup did not prove their dominance.
Yeah, I think anytime you have a lineup that has the Arsenal, like the biggest Arsenal cliche that there is in the starting lineup, and what I mean by that, or what I'm pointing out is, over the years, forever. As long as I can remember, we've used this term like a new signing, and we have Matt, our good old friend Matt Debussy back there. Has he been in every?
Wait, he hasn't been in every. I almost called it Caribou Cup. That's
I think
the Europa League is now every Europa League game.
No, I think not everyone, but yeah, it's either been the Caribou Cup or Europa League.
I'm probably thinking Caribou Cup. Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, sure, there was plenty of experience out there, but you did have a lot of players that hadn't been playing first-team football for really months, even up to years now. I guess what was the season that Matthew Debussy was brought in to be our right back, 14-15 season. So I mean, you're looking at 2.5 years. He injured his shoulder mid-season, had started off well for us, but, he's become a player. He's become the Sebastian Scalacci without making, I guess, the mistakes leading up to his demise as a first-team footballer for Arsenal. But he's kind of become this ongoing joke of, it's some lesser competition. It's Matt Debussy time in defense and that sort of thing, which is a little bit unfair to a player like him, I'm sure, because he's not as crap as some defenders that we've had in the past that really fit that bill. Didn't deserve to be on the pitch other than for some of those games that we needed to give those first teamers some rest. But back to the result, back to this idea that, we should have won with that team on the pitch. You did have quite a bit of experience and plenty of youth that had that same experience as well. And granted, it's away from home. Granted, the penalty is probably not a penalty when all said and done. But I'm not going to put too much effort into trying to figure out, what went wrong in that game for one, and, or put too much concern that we had ended up losing the thing because we did come out of it top of the group in the end. Whereas in the past, our mistakes in the final game, or I guess it's not quite the final game, but
of the group.
Our mistakes in group play has cost us that top spot, has put us in a position where we're playing the tougher team in the next round. But given that it's the Europa League, I don't really know too much about. I haven't been paying attention, honestly, to know what is happening within the other groups. If is it Juventus or what are some other big teams, I guess, that are in the Europa League? I'm not even sure. But the point being is that, the better teams on paper could be, struggling to finish second or whatnot in the Europa League. So we'll have to wait and see. But ultimately, I don't think you can put too much concern over that result. Probably more concerning is you have starting 11, with the exception of Ozil being out through illness or something. This past weekend against Burnley, that took them 2 minutes into stoppage time to get anything going. Actually, I guess anything to hit the back of the net there.
Yeah. And, okay. So just to inform you and everybody else who, I know this is a small number of people who don't follow the Europa League like intently. Zenit St. Petersburg topped Group L. I'm starting from the bottom up for whatever reason. Lazio, Group K, Group J, Ostersunds FK, Group I, Salzburg, Red Bull, Group H, even Arsenal. Steaua Bucharest was Group G, F, Tiraspol. I know I pronounced that wrong. Atalanta, Group E, Group D, AC Milan, Sporting Braga, C, Dinamo Kiev, B, and Villarreal, Group A. So there's
so AC Milan is what I was thinking of, not Juventus. But
yeah, AC Milan and Lazio are like the big boys in there. Besides maybe St. Petersburg and Villarreal.
Doesn't Samir Nasri play for Villarreal now?
I don't.
Or is that someone else in Spain? I'm not sure.
Anyway,
it doesn't matter.
Our chances are good. Was that your point? Was that what you're?
Yeah, the point is that in the past, finishing second in the Champions League has caused Arsenal real problems because we're playing the Bayerns and the Barcelonas and the Madrids and so on and so forth of the world. And, in this case, we really have no idea. We haven't faced these teams in European football, a lot of them anyway, and in quite some time, maybe if ever. So, finishing first, obviously, does tend to help you. But Europa League, you have a lot of good teams, including Arsenal, that on their day can beat anyone in the world, and on their day can lose 10-2 on aggregate to anyone in the world over two legs like they did last year. So, it's hard to tell whether or not winning your group in the Europa League means anything because we haven't really been in this position in, I guess, ever in its current format. So, I guess we'll wait and see.
Okay, so it looks like not Nice, sorry, Atletico Bilbao, Marseille, and Lyon are the best teams the best runners up in this comp. Real Sociedad, but they don't have David Moyes anymore, so I don't know how potent a force they are.
Right.
Who coached Real Sociedad after Moyes? It wasn't. What was the team that Gary Neville failed miserably on? It wasn't Sociedad, was it? It was. I'm thinking
of someone other than Gary Neville. What other English manager went over there?
It doesn't matter. Everyone knows the answer and is screaming at the YouTube screen right now. But that's neither here nor there. We're moving away from Europa League. That's become like the Panda Watch segment of Arsenal Review USA.
I don't even know who we play next.
All right, so back to I don't know. Back to what really matters. So Arsenal really played their cards right because they lost in Europa League, and then they conserved all their energy to play very bad. Well, not very badly, very sluggishly, very frustratingly against Burnley on the weekend. But they do what they always do against Burnley. They win at the very, very end, which must annoy Burnley to no end. Although I feel like Burnley does this to a lot of teams, or against a lot of teams, where they put in a spunky, inspiring, performance, and then just come up short, no matter what. So they should really conserve their energy. It turns out, but they were booing a lot of the game. Burnley fans, Burnley players, especially at the end. And in the end, Arsenal were the ones who were the benefactors for once of a penalty decision. So I'm definitely of the opinion that Aaron Ramsey, who was not majorly fouled anyway on that last play, should be doing more of that. Because how could you not give Aaron Ramsey a penalty? I mean, he's the nice guy. He's the nice boy. I can't think of too many times as opposed to Alexis Sanchez and a lot of other players for Arsenal, that
Mhm.
Aaron Ramsey has been denied a penalty. I think he should be doing more of this.
Yeah.
With a well manicured haircut like that and general good looks, you wonder why he doesn't get more of those. Well, probably because he doesn't dive more. Certainly, I think that was, I think that was a generous decision. I don't know, especially
Yeah.
from Lee Mason, who's never a fan of
Well,
giving Arsenal
I,
penalty decisions.
it certainly was a generous decision given some of the things that he let go,
Oh yeah,
in the middle of the pitch. And I'm glad he did that. I appreciate referees that let players play, and especially if they're, it might be a hard tackle, but they've won the ball first, and all those sorts of things. I thought Xhaka did a really good job of that on the day. If we're honest, but we've all probably
Jacques is on such a knife's edge so many times, because like the one that the crowd was booing for the longest time after a good track back tackle that he had. I want to say it was in the second half. It was in the second half. But that's also the kind of tackle that like a split second later in terms of timing. Most of the games he gets a yellow or a red card for. So it was a little that's Xhaka doing what Xhaka
I know
does.
exactly which one you're referring to, and it was a good one, well timed, and the player stayed down for a while, and that's the sort of crunching tackles that you clean.
You want to see it got right.
Yeah, it gets the point across, and it's the sort of thing that you want to see from a defensive midfielder, because that player is going to think twice when they have the goal in front of them, and they know that the defensive midfielder is not in the peripheral, is maybe coming from behind to kind of crunch them again. So, but if you think about times that you've refereed or maybe been to different levels of football, you tend to have the referee, of course, kind of establish how they're going to call a game early on. And it was definitely soft compared to what Lee Mason had been calling, but you have to think to yourself, when it comes to the penalty spot or inside the penalty box, would it be a foul outside in the middle of the field? Would it be a foul down in the corner? Basically, would it be a foul anywhere outside of the penalty box is kind of the question you have to answer, as a referee. And to Lee Mason, to our benefit as fans, to Arsenal's benefit in terms of 3 points, he thought it was a foul, and I'm certainly not complaining. Arsenal have had their fair share. A buoy chasing whoever it was from Liverpool down into the corner, for example, comes to mind of a last gasp equalizer in that case, of something that you could definitely say would not be a foul in the middle of the pitch.
My point is, if it was Alexis Sanchez doing that or in that same position, it would not be a penalty. Is what my suspicion is. Aaron Ramsey just needs to draw more penalties. Sorry, were you on to a broader point than that?
I think, I mean, Burnley kind of maybe as a fan base and as a club kind of got what they were got what was coming to them. That being said, I wouldn't say definitively that Arsenal deserved to win the game. I'm certainly glad that they did, considering at kickoff, I guess they were sitting 6th and Burnley 7th, equal on points in that case. So very important in terms of,
it puts us ahead of, if I'm getting this right, Spurs and Liverpool into the top 4.
Right.
So it was a key result, and it was certainly, I think, well, for me anyway, after the first half, you could say Arsenal were fortunate to get. Overall, they played the cards right. They started applying more pressure in the second half, which is, what they do. But I think they were a little fortunate not to be down or to not have something worse happen to them in the first half, considering all the chances they gave Burnley's way, which unfortunately is something that Arsenal does a lot of in recent seasons. In the first half, anyway. I have really bad memories of last season, especially them giving a lot of chances to lower-level opposition, let's say, in the first half. So, I don't know. Do you think they were lucky to get away from the first half without any major setbacks?
Yes. And once again, I watched the game on mute, so I'm trying to remember. I guess they were going from right to left on the screen in the first half. And I remember thinking to myself, I think
that's your only point of reference is just like which way they were going?
Well,
you hear no sound, so you're like east to west.
Well, exactly. Yeah, I had to remember what what goal in terms of the screen that which they were attacking in the first half.
They're going left to right, second half. So
yeah. But I remember I think Ramsey had given the ball away on the right side of the field and was kind of jogging after it, as Burnley took it down the flank. So I guess the far side of the pitch as you're looking at the screen in the first half. And I remember thinking to myself, if Arsenal would have played like this in the first half against Spurs, we would have had a much different conversation after that game than we did, even as badly as as they played, or I guess particular players played. Just didn't get their game going. So, Arsenal are very inconsistent in terms of how they approach games and how they come out quickly or not so quick in this case against Burnley. But all I can say really in terms of the result and reviewing ultimately how Arsenal played in this match compared to their best performance of the season previously against Spurs is that they got away with it. Lee Mason did them a favor. We got that late penalty call, and Arsenal got away with it in an away fixture. It always doesn't matter who it is, doesn't matter if they're in 20th place or first place. Playing away in the Premier League is a tough thing to do, and to come away with maximum points at this point in the season as we approach December here with, I think, 21 points up for grabs in the Premier League. I mean, the rest of 2017 is shaping up to be pretty tasty in terms of where the table is going to be as we approach the new year. And you can't underestimate what these 3 points could mean going forward.
Yeah, especially considering that Arsenal, the next two games that I can see here, the next 2 games are at home. So we got Huddersfield tomorrow night, actually, and then Man U on a Saturday. Is that right? Yeah, it looks like a Saturday.
Yeah, nice. I mean, they're going to be pretty close together here as we finish out the year. So, and you bring up Huddersfield because it's interesting because I think they're a team that newly promoted. They've I think have had some pretty good results, but they've also been smashed pretty good by Bournemouth, I think, recently. I guess they come to mind. I think the weekend before the weekend we played Spurs, and I asked the question of people on Twitter to get some questions in before the kickoff of this live show for discussion points, and I think these are good ones because it goes back to kind of the personnel in the Cologne match and the personnel going forward. Walcott's coming back from being ill. Ozil, I think, is sick again for some reason. You saw Jack Wilshere get some pretty significant minutes against Burnley coming in as a substitute. And so Michael asked the questions. And so, Joel, this is for you or for anyone else that wants to chime in after I ask them to you. And I have an opinion on these as well. Okay, how likely do you think a Jack Wilshere departure is in January? From 0 to 100%.
Well, I think that 0 to 100%. It's like a 0 to Ozil leaving type. Type scale.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, if you were to convert it from metric to
Ozil leaving.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, the onus is on him to stay at Arsenal because I feel like he's gotten a decent amount of chances between. Especially considering they're in 2 competition, or they're he's getting chances in the what's called the Capital One Cup. Now it's the Europa League. Consistently, it seems like he's getting decent playing time, which means that he'll go against logic and leave in January. Is what my sense is. I don't know. I get a mild sense that that's what's going to happen. I think he's going to say. So I give him. I'm not gonna say 5. I think he might leave. I'll give him a 6 out of 10%. 60%. Sorry, it was at 100, 60%. Right?
Yeah, I was gonna say 50% in his case because you think about it.
50%. You might as well not say anything.
51%.
Straddling the fence.
So 51%. I'll give him controlling ownership.
People don't ask you these questions so you can straddle the fence. I mean, you got to be all in. Like 0% or like 90%.
40% chance. 40%. Well, actually, I think it's less than 50, given that you think about some of the players. Diaby's a bad example because he played like 4 games in 5 years. But Thomas Rosicky, you take Thomas Rosicky, really good player. He scored some important goals for us over the years, but constantly injured, wasn't reliable to play a full season necessarily, especially late on in his career. But you're talking about a guy who, if he would have moved on from Arsenal, say 5 years ago or 5 years before he, finally left last year, he probably starts every game when he's healthy for 15 out of the 20 Premier League clubs, maybe roughly, maybe 12. And so, but he's doing it for significantly less money. So he knows what side his bread's buttered on. He knows he's going to make double the money. And I know that doesn't come down to all of that, but you're talking about a club that was loyal to him, continue to renew his contract, and still got a lot out of him when he was healthy and ready to go. And I think that same thing applies to Jack Wilshere. And you're looking at a guy who's making, 80, 90, 100K a week probably at this point. What other club?
I'm suspicious that the salary of every Arsenal player, possibly every Premier League player.
No, I doubt it. I mean,
you always have these figures, like what they make per week.
Well, I mean, a lot of it's public knowledge, I think.
Oh, it absolutely is. I mean, at least not like up to date public knowledge, but they do release. Sorry, I'm just giving you a hard time. You always bring this up. Salary figures.
Okay, so but let's we apply sometimes this we've talked about in the past where players, they don't get held accountable and they just automatically get their contracts renewed, and how great that would be in real life as Joe Schmoza, some accountant who doesn't know how to count and do like basic math, but he still gets like a bonus every year.
What current Arsenal player would you compare that accountant who can't count to? Even though I probably know a lot of accountants who can't count, but
well, I mean, there's no glaring example at the moment, to be honest.
Not Debussy? Not your good friend Matt Debussy?
Maybe, but see, again, you're talking about a guy's making probably 70K a week.
It's probably an exact figure too.
Yeah. Well, so my point being is that Jack Wilshere, again, knows he came up in the academy. He's not going to leave unless he's going to get paid the same amount of money that he's making at Arsenal. No one would do that. Regardless of hey, Jack, we're going to play you into in stretch factors again, like Arsenal did early on in your career, or we're going to play you into another injury.
Was that stretch factors or stress fractures?
Stress fractures. Sorry, I have a couple sick kids.
The main thing was stretch. I just heard stretch was all.
Yeah, maybe I did say stretch, but that could happen too, Joel, if you play too much.
That
could have
stretch and stress
injury
for an Arsenal player. Yeah,
stretch factors.
Yeah,
they don't do enough of that.
Was that like a birthmark? Sorry. All right.
So, yeah, I mean, we're getting way down this Jack Wilshere rabbit hole, but the point is that unless he's going to get the same amount of money, and kind of be in a similar scenario where he can kind of come off this injury and this lack of playing time over the last couple of years, slowly but surely, and be in a scenario where, they're going to pay him really well to basically be that every now and again player until he's really ready to be part of the first team. And that might never happen. So actually I would give it a 40% chance of him leaving. Okay, next question.
It's 2017. Why are we still talking about Jack Wilshere? I mean, that's sorry.
Okay.
I mean, it was a good question. What do we have? Let's just do one more question.
We have two more. So another personnel question. So this is a young player who was, before we moved to the 3-3-4 or 3-3-4, 3-4-2-1, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
3-4-3.
Is Alex Iwobi. He was playing a lot. Now he's hardly. You don't see him much. He did play against Burnley, with Ozil missing. The question is he a good player?
Is he good?
Because Mike feels like it changes every week.
Oh yeah, no, he's a good player. On paper, I don't know if he's a good player overall consistently. It does change every week what he actually executes, what he turns in. But is he a good player on paper? He's absolutely a good player on paper. I think I would put him on paper in the start. Like if I had a FIFA team, I would put him in there. Not ahead of Ozil necessarily, but maybe some other players who are Welsh or English. But I would not put him ahead of Ozil. I think on paper he's a very good player and he has the potential to execute. He doesn't do it consistently enough. I would put him in 90% of the time against lower level opposition. So I don't know if that answers the good player question.
Yeah, I'd agree. I would agree with that.
You got to consistently turn in a good performance to be a good player. So no, in that estimation, I wouldn't say he's a good player. I mean, these tend to come off as very black and white type answers, but it's not. He's close, but he's not.
you'd have to look at the stats, so I don't want to say this, definitively like it's a fact, but
Yeah.
it feels like he's not a big game player. He is that
Right.
middle to lower level of the league type player. Get the occasional start
He's a
there.
midfielder version of Giroud, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you can maybe rely on him for that late winner here and there. Okay. So lastly, as we approach Huddersfield Town coming up here, Mike is scared that we're going to outshoot Huddersfield Town 17-3 and still lose 2-1. Joel, are you scared about that possibly happening?
It's at home, so no. I think we'll win. We'll probably leak a goal, but it'll probably be like 3-1. Do we just want to do our predictions at this point? Huddersfield is the next game.
Yeah, I was going to segue into that.
I'm going to say 3-1. What do you say?
Win. Okay. Yes. I'm going to say they got torn apart by Bournemouth. It's at home. I think we're due for. I'm going to say. I'll say 3-0.
3-0. Well, that's not going to happen. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. What about Man U, also at home?
That is going to be a 2-2 draw.
Okay. I'm going to say 1-1 for Man U. What's going to happen? Man U somehow going to score first, and Arsenal will. The rest of the game will be just a park the bus fest from Man U. Arsenal will finally get something in the 85th minute, and that'll be that. So, yeah, the onus is not good in these Jose Mourinho games. He just plays Wenger too well. For anything
I always draw. Jose Mourinho is still the manager there.
Yes. Oh, he most certainly is. Yeah.
Does
that change your prediction in any way?
You just think it doesn't.
Alex Ferguson.
No, I thought it was David Moyes. No, I'm just kidding.
The sad thing is it doesn't matter who it was. Like you would still predict the same thing.
Okay, so patron predictions. No points for our patrons. They got both Cologne and Burnley incorrect.
Okay.
So I'll have to add up all the predictions and update the site because I know everyone's waiting around for that. We did have a contest, Joel.
Did you just do something to your screen? It just got really, really bright for some reason.
Yeah, I'm
being abducted.
Yeah, aliens are coming.
I'm in my with the
my white background email to make sure I get this correct. So the question for last week, and we will have a new contest this week as well. So give me a second here.
Yeah.
The question for last week was, when was the last time Arsenal beat Spurs in the league by 2 goals or more and kept a clean sheet? Right. So obviously we've had a lot of draws with them recently, or 5-2 victories. But we wanted to know, when was the last time we beat Spurs in the league by 2 goals or more and kept the clean sheet at the same time. And you actually have to go back all the way to October of 2009. I think we beat them 3-0. The Adebayor volley goal, that was a good one, and Cesc, I think, scored a double in that one as well. Either way, you go back 8 years to get that same result where we scored 2 goals or more with kept a clean sheet. So congrats to David and Jonathan for taking home the scarf courtesy of roughneckscarves.com and the t-shirt courtesy of whoareyourdesigns.com. So this week we're going to have another contest. 2 prizes up for grabs again, whoareyourdesigns.com and roughneckscarves.com. The question is, when was the last time Arsenal scored a winner in stoppage time? Okay, so it doesn't necessarily have to be a penalty, but when was the last time Arsenal scored the winning goal of a match in stoppage time? So that can be any competition, doesn't have to be just the Premier League. Any competition. Last time Arsenal scored a goal before the Burnley match, of course, in stoppage time. So get those into contest at ArsenalReviewUSA.com before the kickoff of the United match for your chance at one of those 2 prizes.
I feel like that was fairly recent, not to give anything away. That's probably not right, so that's not really giving anything away.
I actually don't know off the top of my head, but
it's probably like 2 weeks ago or something, something ridiculous. But okay. Okay. I
Well,
think
if
that's
it
all
is,
we get. I think, well,
yeah.
sorry to interrupt you. I was talking to everybody out there. I think that's all we have for you on this particular live show. I did want to say, I think, oh, this is kind of going off the rails, but I'm always impressed by Kolasinac going forward. I know I said we're gonna talk about him a little bit. I'm always impressed by his resourcefulness. Well, just his adeptness at going forward. I almost think he'd be a good replacement for games where we don't play Sanchez on the wing or don't play Sanchez at all. I know that's probably crazy, but he's very direct like Sanchez.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he doesn't have the goal scoring ability. Well, I don't know, maybe he does. He just the one shot it was eventually blocked, but the one time he took what was it? I forgot who the pass was from, but the onus was on him to shoot immediately, and he had such a great clipped touch around the defender. I believe it was in the second half against Burnley. He just took it so well. It got blocked, but it's moments like that, along with all the directness that he employs when he goes forward. That I think that would be a good problem to have, having him thrown up front, and you're like, oh, who do we put back on the wing now? I don't care. Like, I think having him up front would just be the battering ram that Arsenal needs. Right now, they've got it with Sanchez when he's on, but he's not always on. Is this just not a point worth making?
No, it's actually funny you mentioned him up there because I feel like, especially in the Burnley match, the camera zoomed in on his face a couple of times when he got into the box or put a cross in or took a shot or whatever. It's like he almost has this reaction like, "Oh my gosh, we didn't score." Or, oh my gosh, we didn't get a great shot off, like, because he's so used to getting forward and being really productive from a crossing standpoint, assist standpoint. He's scored some goals this season, obviously. It's almost as if when he has the ball and he's pushed forward or made that through run, as he's expecting to do something really productive or create a great scoring chance for someone. And that he's shocked when it doesn't happen now, which, it's great to have a player.
How much longer will that shock last?
Yeah, oozing that confidence that he would expect something good to happen every single time. But you're right. Hopefully that shocked face doesn't happen more and more as he's realizing, well, maybe this is the norm instead of
yeah. I don't know. Crazier positional exchanges and lineups have happened for Arsenal, so I wouldn't be surprised if he starts up where Alexis Sanchez starts one of these days. It would be great. I mean, it would be it'd be a good experiment, I think, and one that Arsenal, I think they have the depth. Well, maybe they don't have the depth, but they have other players that they can put back on the wing in his stead. Were they to do that? I don't know. I'm just
maybe Jack Wilshere or Alex Iwobi
on the wing. Iwobi plays on the wing, but usually he plays in. He'll switch in with Sanchez. Yeah. All right. Well, Arsenal, like I said, it wasn't the most convincing week of all-around performances from them, especially in the Cologne game and then against Burnley. But they got the points that really mattered in the competition that really mattered. So hopefully that continues with 2 Premiership games, first against Huddersfield and then against Man U. Anything to say before we let people go? Enjoy the rest of their week.
Yeah, just hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving holiday if you celebrated. Looking forward to a very busy holiday season here as we finish off the calendar year of 2017. I don't remember a year, and maybe because I wasn't paying attention, but it feels like there's 1 or 2 more games in the month of December than there have been in previous seasons.
Right.
Given that they've kind of eliminated that Boxing Day fixture and now try to sneak in one game before the new year and like one game
fixture. What are you smoking? Am I wrong? It's a Boxing Day fixture. We're at Crystal Palace.
Oh, I thought it was the 28th. I thought we were playing like the 23rd and the 28th or something. Really?
Oh, that's what I got on mine.
I got on
mine. Yeah. Everyone out there again probably knows the answer, and we're just.
No, we played Friday the 22nd.
Yeah.
And then Thursday the 28th.
I must have a really old calendar then, because I've got.
So I think originally the Crystal Palace, because we play
Crystal Palace.
Yeah, it is against Crystal Palace, but it's not until the 28th. So there's no Boxing Day fixture, and we play basically every 3 days leading up to the new year. starting on December 10th. So actually December 7th because we play Bate in the last
You're right. You're right.
Either way,
this truly is the American Gooners podcast because we're like the last people to know about these things. We have outdated calendars apparently that are officially Arsenal somehow.
Yeah, I mean, even leading up to January 14th, Arsenal play every 3 days, pretty much. So I mentioned at the top of the show, the next month and a half is going to define Arsenal season. It's going to define a lot of team seasons in the Premier League. Arsenal in particular, whether they have the grit, the player personnel, and the actual tactical aptitude to win some of these games, which are going to be tough. A lot of them, thankfully, are at home throughout the month of December, but that, of course, leaves us with more away games down the stretch in the spring. But all that said, obviously, there are more important things than football out there. Some might disagree with that statement, but either way, I hope everyone's been doing well. Lots of great branch stuff happening throughout Arsenal America, and we look forward to continuing to connect with you as we march on here in the holiday season and the new year. So
yep.
We'll see you later.
A lot to slog through in the next month. Arsenal, of course, playing not Burnley. They just beat Burnley. Huddersfield and Man U immediately here the next day, and then on Saturday. So we'll get in touch with you on the other side of those games on another podcast. Until then, as always, remember, support the Arsenal and have a good week.